This is Nadisha in Chicago, and you're watching my channel, Knowledge for Quality of Life. Friends, today I'll be discussing or sharing some thoughts on, as I promised last few vlogs ago, that why there is a rise in sudden death, whether it's related to heart disease or other non-communicable diseases such as cancer in the folks who are in 30s and 40s. Uh, these are some of the thoughts which I'm going to be sharing with you based on the science literature, what it says. And before I do that, I welcome all those who have recently joined the channel. This channel is purely based on knowledge sharing and community of learners. Also, I apologize not doing the vlog last week due to my personal reasons. And before I get delayed any further, let me share my screen. So what you're seeing here, these are the few thoughts I have captured here as far as in concerning rise in deaths amongst people in 30s and 40s, and what science points out to multiple factors contributing to this trend. I have recently read many articles through different media channels and including LinkedIn that people are dying prematurely, so to speak, in their 30s and 40s. So I thought that some of the underlying causes which science highlights, I'm going to share some thoughts with you guys so that we are well aware in calibrating the risk before we do things in our life. Number one is cardiovascular disease and metabolic disorders. We've been talking about in various vlogs in the past about cardiovascular disease risk and how to assess it through various tests. And metabolic syndrome is one of the leading cause, which leads us to these non-communicable diseases. Heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes are increasingly affecting younger adults due to poor diet, obesity, sedentary lifestyle, and stress. Now, this is nothing new. We know about it. And particularly, some of the points which I'm going to be sharing here, it's very common, which we've been talking about. But some points which I'm going to be highlighting, which may be new for some folks. At least a few years back, it was new for me as well, which I never thought that it could be leading to cardiovascular risk. So I'm going to highlight those points to some extent, besides many other very clear points. So studies show that early onset of metabolic syndrome can lead to fatal cardiovascular events. Now, when you see here poor diet, we know that the lifestyle that we have been leading, the type of fast food and the products which is available in the market, industrial products, and the type of preservatives they use. Some of them are really detrimental to our overall health. And sedentary lifestyle, which we talked about, how exercise is very important. But remember that exercise has a J-curve phenomena. There's a complete sedentary lifestyle, there's a moderate, and there's an extreme. Now, when you go in the extreme end, there's a problem. Okay, the J-curve reverses, and that increases your hazard ratio. And we'll talk about that point, which a lot of people may not know about it. So what can we do about it? And how to underwrite the risk before we do certain things. That's what I'm going to highlight pretty much in this vlog. Studies show that early onset of metabolic syndrome can lead to fatal cardiovascular event, because, it's a slow progressive issue, health condition, and if it gets unnoticed, we know that, the damages are detrimental. Mental health and substance use. Now, mental health, depression, anxiety, rising stress, the type of lifestyle we are leading, whether it be a corporate world or whether it be a lifestyle issue, everywhere there is a stress, and stress to some extent is not bad itself. It gets out of the hand when we don't know how to manage it well. Right? So, we need to know and we need to learn how to manage the stress. We create a balance in our life. And increasing these mental disorders and, rising stress, depression, that also contributes to increase in societal rates as well. Drug overdose is another thing, particularly from opioid and synthetic drugs like fentanyl, have surged in the recent times. Excessive alcohol consumption is leading to liver disease in younger population as well. So we cannot discard that. Cancer rates increasing in young adults. Some cancers like colorectal cancer, breast cancer are being diagnosed at much earlier ages. Now, before there was a time that, doctors used to say that, colorectal exam, particularly colonoscopy, has to be done at certain age and beyond. But things have changing because, in the last 50 years, the type of lifestyle, the industrial revolution took place in the goods and services that we consume, the products we consume, the ready-made market available products we consume, which are loaded with a lot of preservatives, which are carcinogens. If you Google the list of carcinogens in our ready-made products, it's mind-boggling. So those things create another risk factor. So these are individual risk factors which are at play. So we have to think about it. We have to be mindful about it. That what are the risk factor? Because whatever we do in life, we need to know how to underwrite those risks, so that we can situate ourselves in a better position to know everything well in advance and move our life accordingly. Excessive alcohol consumption, as I said, it's a problem. Cancer rates increasing in young adults, as I said, and what can we do about it? So now colorectal cancer was recommended 50 and above at one point, but now we are seeing people who are in their 30s or 40s, they're experiencing this colorectal cancer and breast cancer because particularly female, because of the estrogen level, it can be detrimental. That estrogen can play a role with one of the carcinogen and increase your risk quite a bit. So the proper exam, the proper diagnosis on a yearly basis, a monitoring of, our markers are very critical, which we have been talking in previous vlogs. The test which I have explicitly shared in one of the vlog that, what test needs to be done so that we can monitor the progress. Some of the issues can be predicted well in advance before it gets too out of hand, in later stage. And it can be reversible easily if it gets caught in the right time. So that's the key thing. Those are the risks which we control to some extent, and some of the risk which is beyond our control, I'm going to share that as well. Scientists suggest that changes in diet, gut microbiome disruption, and environmental exposure might be the factors. Now, we don't control too much environmental factors, because we are living in a place where the pollution is there, because of the carbon footprint or whatever. And we don't have too much control over that. But whatever we have control over, like changing the lifestyle through diet, so that, we can minimize the microbiome disruption by minimizing the antibiotics that we consume. Because, when we take antibiotic, we don't kill only the bad bacteria, but we kill the good bacteria as well. So our microbiome is completely shattered on an average person. And basically the diseases starts from the gut. The more good microbiome we have in our gut, it's going to keep us healthy and happy in the long run. Lifestyle factors, sedentary habits, increased screen time, reduced physical activities are linked to poor cardiovascular health. As I said that, the physical activity has a J curve. Now, J curve, as we go higher intensity, I'm going to highlight something here very carefully. So there are risks, which is predisposition, which we carry, which we may not know unless we get tested. Sometimes those risks are passed genetically. For instance, 𝗱𝗶𝘀𝗶𝘃. This is the atherogenic lipid profile element particle, which we inherit from either mom or dad, which needs to be diagnosed at least once. Do we have that disposition or not? And then we can move on accordingly. So when we go to the gym, folks who are going to the gym, a couple of years ago, somebody asked me that, a guy who spends about 1.5 to 2 hours in the gym, how he can have, quadruple bypass. And at that point, I was really surprised that, then I started digging the literature and I found out that, it makes sense because every time, we have some underlying conditions, right? Because, we generally tend to think that, the younger person is healthier you are, right? But it's not always true because there are some underlying conditions which we have, which we may not know. And when we go through the high intensity stress training, when we put our physical body through the stress by high intensity training in the gym, and the atherosclerosis goes up slowly and gradually, the plaque buildup goes up, the pressure goes up. It's not the plaque which is problem. When the pressure goes to the certain threshold level, the plaque ruptures, and that's where the event take place, either stroke or heart attack. Now, if you know that the marathoners, the runners, the cardiac events occurs in the last few minutes before the race ends because they push to the threshold in the last few minutes, and that's where the body goes through the heart goes through the stress, physical stress, extreme physical stress, and that creates an event. It's not the physical activity which creates the event because the person may have the underlying cause which the person may not be aware of. That's the point I'm trying to bring it out. So now what can we do about it? What can we do about it? It's regular monitoring. So if I need to go to the gym and join the high intensity training, I need to know what are the underlying risk which I have, through different blood markers, maybe CAC score, coronary artery calcium score, that I need to know how my arteries are inside, what my blood pressures are, what my insulin markers are, what kind of an overall risk I have. Am I torturing my body to excessive stress, having these underlying causes which can create any adverse event in the future? So these are the things which needs to be known well in advance, because at the end of the day, remember that more is not always good, because sometimes that's why they say that 150 minutes a week, the moderate exercise is best, because it has a sweet spot, it has a point of inflection that J curve reverses, that if you have a complete sedentary lifestyle, you have higher risk. And if you have a moderate level of activity, like 30 minutes a day, brisk walking, moderate speed walking, that has a sweet spot. And you should know your risk before you start putting the physical stress on your body. Basically, that's all it is. Some of the other things, that poor sleep habits, which we talked about chronic stress contribute to early mortality. Now, remember that, we are living in a corporate world where, there's a lot of stress amongst youth. Um, 30 years, 40 years, a lot of people are entrepreneurs. They work 80 hours, 100 hours a week. They work day in and night, sleep deprivation, a lot of things. And then, on top of it, the lifestyle, the type of food, we just grab fast food and, we are on the go. Uh, Without knowing it, unintentional things which we are doing, which can be detrimental to our health. So we need to know, we should know all these things, in the back of our mind that, what are we achieving? Remember that success comes with a price. It's not free always. I would strongly recommend folks to read last words by Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. He died at the age of 56 due to pancreatic cancer. And, remember that, last words which he said, it expresses everything what I'm discussing here. Because, anything can be done for us by anyone, but the pain and the burden of disease needs to be borne by myself. Nobody can share that burden at the end of the day. So remember that we have to think in those lines when we are achieving the success, because balance is the key. We have to know, because what are we doing? We are trying our struggle, we are striving for it, for making more and more money. We are establishing our companies. We are doing everything possible to move ahead in life for our families, but at what cost? So be mindful of that and create a balance in your life. Balance is the key in everything that we do. Environmental and genetic factor, as I said, that air pollution, microplastic, endocrine disrupting chemicals. These are the preservatives found in food, in personal care product, which can disrupt our endocrine system. These are the deadliest thing. Very slow, but deadliest thing in the long run. Maybe affecting our long-term health. So air pollution, we don't have too much control over it. For in the countries where there's a huge carbon footprint. Microplastics, yes, we have to be mindful of it, that, what kind of we use these, spring water in plastic bottles left and right, all the time. And we have to be mindful of it. What are we doing? And the type of, as I said, that, products which we use, it's loaded with preservatives. It could be a disrupting, endocrine system. And creating a long-term health problem. Genetic predisposition, as I said, combined with lifestyle factors can increase the risk. As I said, 𝗱𝗶𝘀𝗄. There's no drug yet, but there's some drug in the trial by Lilly, by Amgen, that how to reduce the 𝗱𝗶𝘀𝗄 if somebody have inherited from mom and dad or dad. But it's in the pipeline. So each and every risk adds up, and it creates the cascading phenomena in our overall health. So the more risk we can control, the better we will be in the long run. That's the point I'm trying to make. Infectious disease and long-term effects. Some experts are studying whether infections like COVID-19 have long-term effects. Yes, long COVID side effects are there. There are effects of people have been reporting. There's a lot of scientific papers for mRNA vaccines as well. Affects the heart, and long COVID and cardiovascular complications are happening, particularly in youth and adults as well. So be mindful of it. But I have noticed when I was digging up this information that one key element stands out to me in this all risk factor is one very important, which I have done many vlogs on, is one's vitamin D level. So if you want to start something, make sure that you fix your vitamin D first, because that is the number one on my chart based on my reading and research over the last 8 to 9 years that I've been digging information on. Besides all these factors, but start fixing your D first, along with your cofactors, which we've been talking about, that you need to take vitamin K2, magnesium, and etc. So let me stop share my screen here. So there are some thoughts which I needed to share with you, that the underlying causes of uh, particularly the high intensity training, going to the gym. People are in a good faith they are doing this to get a better health, but sometimes unintentionally we are doing harm than helping ourselves. By no means I'm against high intensity training. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying here as a bottom line, that before you join or before you get indulged in high intensity training, make sure that what are the underlying risks which you carry, particularly your metabolic profile, also your cardiac profile, also your consult with your doctor, go for the marker test, know your risk very well before you start any high intensity exercise regimen, because at the end of the day you are doing it in a good faith to have a better health, but unintentionally it may come and haunt you. So folks who are depriving their sleeps, because all we are doing, to make more money and move better in the lifestyle of this world. But at the end of the day, what are we trying to achieve for ourselves and our family? Be mindful of that, because there's a debate that one can start on, that some people said that, oh, your life is predestined. You have certain number of years to live no matter what you do, but that's a totally different subject, and I don't want to get indulged with this. I have my personal view on that, because I believe that more than 50% of the diseases around us is created by us, not natural phenomena. So the type of life we lead, the type of lifestyle we lead, the amount of food, junk food which we consume, all these things are factors, individual factors, in addition to the genetic risk factors which each one of us carries. Like first thing I did in my life when I did my cardiac marker test, I and myself and my wife and my kids, particularly me and my wife, because if we are okay in Lp(a), chances are that our kids are going to be okay. So me and my wife both are way under. So we had never inherited any Lp(a) issue. That's, thanks God, it's a blessing that we don't have that issue. But make sure that you know your risk. That's the bottom line. That's my message of today's vlog before you go into the different programs in your life. With that, I'll see you goodbye and hopefully see you next time.